Okay. So until now, what we saw. Wait, today is the 23rd day of Nisan, the 21st of April. So what we saw so far was all the Kabbalah. Like he starts with every mitzvah, writing out all the details. So now he wants to explain what all this means. So the meaning of all this. Hine מבואר בזוהר בלק על פסוק והיה באוכלכם מלחם הארץ תרימו תרומה להשם. So in the Zohar on Parshas Balak, he says here it's 188b. There's a verse in Parshas Balak that says at the end. I don't think actually it's not in Balak. It's in Shlach at the end. Shlach or I think it's in Shlach at the end. It's after the sin of the spies and says, "Oh, Shalom Aleichem." When you eat from the bread of the earth, you shall raise a donation to Hashem. When you eat from the bread of the earth, you should raise a donation to Hashem. What's it talking about? HaOmer atnufa itmar. So it says that this is talking. The mitzvah there is very clearly talking about the Omer, the offering of the Omer. But the Zohar asks, "V'chi lechem haaretz seorayu?" How can you call the bread of the earth barley? Because bread you make out of wheat. So it's true you can make it out of barley, but to say that's the bread of the earth, the Zohar. Pirush שהמלכות לחמה העיקרי הם ה' חסדים שמכוננים אותה בסוד והוכן בחסד כיסא. ואם כן, היכי קרי לשעורה שיהי גבורות לחם הארץ. So now he gives from, usually when he brings a commentary on the Zohar, it's from the Migdash Melech. Rabbi Bardugo was a big Mekubal in the 19th century. He lived in London, like most of the big Mekubalim in the 19th century. It's not well known, but most of them ended up in London because they were from Iraq. Oh, they were from Iraq.
They came from British...
yeah, there was a British connection. So he also... What? Yeah. I don't know if they're related. So he says like this. What this means is, how can you say... I said you technically you can make bread out of barley. That's not the issue. The issue is not technical. He says, but the difference between wheat and barley is that wheat represents the 5 measures of loving kindness in Dat, and barley represents the 5 measures of gvura, of judgment in Dat. So again, the idea would be that in our Dat is leshonit kashrut. Dat means to connect to something. So it's sort of like when they look at octopi's suction cups. So it's very unique, because on the one hand you want to be able to grab onto something, on the other hand you want to be able to let go easily. How do you make it do both, right? So our Dat, our consciousness, easily latches on and easily is supposed to let go also. If you have Hei Chasadim, it means that you can easily let go. If you have Hei Gvurot, it means that you easily grab on. And that's like, again, the Gvurot, the judgments are always a contraction. So it's like you're grabbing something. And for consciousness to work well, it has to be very quick in both. A lot of times, one of the explanations of why the Gemara says that Nashim Da'atan Kala, according to Kabbalah, this statement by the Gemara that says that women, their consciousness is light, their Dat is light. Light. So the way the people understood this is Da'atan Kala is he's fickle. He's not fickle. He's like he's shallow. Da'atan Kala, people understood it means he's shallow. But in Kabbalah it wasn't understood this way, and probably not the meaning either. What they meant to say was that it's missing something. That's why it's light. It's lighter because it's missing something. What is it missing? It's missing the 5 measures of loving kindness. Meaning that when it latches on very strongly. And it's very hard for it to let go. And you can't be that way like in a court of law.
We're saying, and that's because of loving kindness.
Loving kindness allows something to go.
So
right?
what this is good.
There's a statement: if you love someone, set them free.
What holds on too tight is an aspect
of judgment. Judgment holds on very tight.
Yes.
In a way, the common field, they have a stronger dot.
Right. They're stronger but lighter. So the problem is that if you hear from a witness, you hear something, and you latch onto that version very strongly, it's very hard for you to hear the other side.
Right.
So they said it's not a good idea for them to be a judge, because they'll be more tending to one. So whoever they hear first.
Who? A woman?
Right, that's what I'm saying. That's feminine consciousness.
Yes,
it doesn't have to necessarily be a woman, but that's feminine consciousness. Right. So I mean, that's if a woman wasn't that way, she wouldn't be able to raise her children. You have to latch on strongly. She also keeps the house together. There's a lot of things that you need strong judgment for.
Sloaner Rebbe told a friend of mine, he went with Yechidus in this previous one, and couldn't let go of something. He says, if you're holding on to a pencil,
you break it.
Shake it. You can't let go of it.
That's a problem. It's called Parkinson's.
You have to stop shaking.
Right. So you have to have both sides. So really, so he says, the Mikdash Shmuel says here, Berdugo says here, so what is this? Why is the Torah calling the bread of the earth something that comes from barley, which only has judgment?
Yeah.
The bread of the earth is, first of all, something that gives nourishment, and what gives nourishment is the loving kindness. That's what he says here. ואם כן איך יקרי לסורה שהיא גבורות לך מארץ, לאו הכי, וענן סעורה מקרבינם בגין דסעורה קדמה לשאר נהמה דעלמא, סעורה איהו שיעור ה'. So without this, the reason that we bring the HaOmer offering from seorah, from barley, is first of all because it is the first type of bread. Kadma l'shar nahama de'alma. It comes first. So one way of understanding this is that it ripens first. That's the agricultural statement. But it also means that in the development, like we said, of speech, you first need the gvurot. You first of all need the judgments. You first of all need to be able to break stuff up before you can put it together. And that's what he says. The seorah yu shi'ur hei. You read the word seorah. It's sin, ayin, vav, resh, hei. So you read it as two words. Seor is shi'ur, meaning a measure of hay. And hay, what does hay represent here? So he doesn't say it yet, but he'll say it in a little bit. The letter hay is the vapor that comes out of the windpipe. And so it can measure that vapor. It can put stops on that vapor. Begin to deha atar yediahi b'shi'ura dehay, because it's a well-known thing when it comes to measuring the hay. Shirotze lomar, and the explanation, שהגבורות מהם נבנית תחילה, ואחר כך החסדים. Says that the order is that first you have to have the judgments, then you can have the loving kindness. ולכך קוראם לחם הארץ, and that's why he calls these hay gvurot, these 5 measures of judgment, the bread of the earth. Because we're going to say that bread here means that this is the speech of Torah. That's what it's built out of. It's to say it another way. I have this problem very strongly to this day. I haven't solved it yet. But when I learn Gemara, my tendency is to bring everything together first. But that's not how you learn. When you learn, you first have to understand fully what the dispute is. You have to understand what the difference between the two sides is. If you don't understand that, if you can't pull them apart, you can't put them back together again afterwards. You have to have a very clear sense of why there is a disagreement here, what each side is saying. And if you can't differentiate between them, you can't bring them together again later. I have I guess this inner fear that I won't be able to bring it back together again. So I'm afraid of pulling them apart fully. It's better that they be pulled apart. And
like in a nuclear, you get first fission and not in a bomb.
Then
you get fusion.
Right. First you get fission, then you get fusion.
Then you get hydrogen.
Right. You understand? First of all, you take the atom apart,
Right.
then you learn how to put it back together.
That's right.
That's the order of nuclear
That's the
power.
nuclear
So
power,
all the
yeah.
nuclear power we have is from fission, not from fusion.
No.
And we're looking for fusion. So it's the same idea, but you first of all have to, and we said in speech, strangely enough, that's the first thing that needs to come. So if somebody stutters, for instance, so my theory would be right away, it's because he's not pulling the letters apart first. He's not articulating. He's not differentiating between the letters. He's afraid that in the end he won't be able to put it back together into a word, and so it's hard. It's very, very hard.
It could be a psychological
Yeah.
mechanism behind stuttering.
עד כאן לשון הזוהר והמקדש מלך שם. Yeah, so he says it's the מקדש מלך. ולהבין כל זה, עניין שיעור ה', so I'm not sure that we have time now to continue, but let's read a little bit about עניין שיעור ה'. What does it mean, the measure of ה'? שהוא עניין בניין המלכות מהגבורות. This is called that Malchus, kingdom, is built out of gvura. It's built out of judgment. So the simple meaning is that you have to judify or turn into a justice system any kingdom that you build. Anything that has to do with people working together, there have to be bylaws. There has to be a way to organize it, to order it. So the whole modern state, for instance, is a bureaucracy. What do we mean by bureaucracy? That there's a judicial branch that makes sure that whatever laws were decided upon have to actually be followed. So that's the way you build a modern state. It doesn't matter whether it's a communist or totalitarian. There still have to be laws. There have to be some kind of laws. And it's the only way to build a kingdom. It's the only way to build some kind of complex human organism. But here what we mean, like we said, is speech. So you first say, יש להקדים מה שכתוב במרכבת יחזקאל ופניהם וכנפיהם פרודות מלמעלה. So now he's going to get into, and I told you about this 2 days ago, he's going to get into a long discussion now about the wings of the angels. We saw it in a very simple way when we learned Shorosh Mitzvat Tefillah. When we learned the davening, it was simpler. It was that there were 4 camps of angels, and each one is the many words that you can say. He's going to make it in a different way a little bit, but with the same idea with the angels. And so we'll see this in the continuation of the week. Everybody should be well.